Good afternoon and welcome to the March 30th, 2023 executive session of the Clarksville City Council. The first item on our agenda is a mistake I made in misreading an email request from Councilperson McLaughlin, but it is a stark reminder that the military children and families of our community are having their lives suddenly change at a moment's notice, as we experienced earlier this morning when 9 soldiers, 9 of our heroes, lost their lives in a helicopter accident or 2 helicopter accidents. So we are also reminded that children's lives are also changed in school, as was demonstrated on Monday in Nashville when 3 children and 3 adults, actually 4 adults counting the shooter, perished in a school shooting. So let's be mindful of those families as we go about our day. And without objection, ladies and gentlemen, I'll ask you to stand for a moment of silence for those families who are grieving tonight. Amen. Amen. Thank you for indulging me. First or next item is Planning Commission report. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. We do have several cases for you tonight, and we'll get these slides up in a moment and step through them. All right. Our first case tonight is Z16 2023, application of Luke Baggett. This agent is Sid Hedrick. This is 0.26 acres, currently zoned R2 and requesting to go to R6, and it is not an extension of the R6. The property fronts Davis Drive, south of Davis Drive, Willow Heights intersection in City Council Ward number 6. It's a residential lot with a single family home site on it, and the applicant's statement is, quote, "We are asking for R6 because the R6 zone was created to spur infill development. Our intentions are to build no more than 3 single-family homes that would be priced within a range acceptable to encourage home ownership with first-time home buyers and young professionals in mind." I believe the home site has been removed since their comment came in. Here's the Davis Drive looking back towards Madison Street. And there's the site. It did formerly have a home site on it. Important note here, there's an unimproved alley right-of-way just north of this. So the property does front both those corners. The applicant was going to seek abandonment, but there's other properties in the area that do use that unimproved alley at this time. So we did drop that from the application. They can still request R6 for this property. Department comments and concerns. Sidewalk would be required per the street department's comments. There were no other comments or concerned, and you can see the school system's comments for the capacities of the schools listed. Historical estimates would put this at 3 units. Staff recommends approval. The proposed request is consistent with the land use plan. The proposed R6 single-family residential zoning is not out of character with the surrounding development pattern. Adequate infrastructure serves the site, including residential supportive uses such as mass transit. Retail services are in the area. The adopted land use plan indicates that it's encouraged to maintain a desirable mix of housing types, and sidewalks will be required per the R6 zoning classification. No other adverse environmental issues were identified with this request. The Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Any comment or question about Ordinance 98? Councilperson Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. How are you today?
Doing great.
Good, good. I just have a question about the single-family homes. Are these going to be 2, 3 bedrooms? Do we know?
I can't speak to that. You can ask the agent or the applicant next week.
Okay, we need to know that because if this is R6, the children will need somewhere to play. And so I don't know how this is not out of character for single families if there's going to be homes for children. If these are going to be apartments, I need to know. So that will help me to understand the way I'm going to vote. Because I don't see a R6 over there. And I think R6 is just being used too much. And it doesn't accommodate the children. And so I just want to make that known. Thank you.
Any other comment or question? Seeing none, we're ready for item 2, ordinance 99. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This is application Z17, 2023, application of Wyatt, Chittenden. This is 0.21 acres, currently zoned R3, also requesting R6. In this case, it is an extension of the R6 in the area. R6 across the street. This is in City Council Ward number 6. This is a residential lot with a single-family residence on it, and the applicant's statement is, quote, "would like to tear down existing single-family home on the R3 lot and subdivide it into 2 R6 lots to provide more single-family and infill district that will allow more housing opportunities and choices, as well as to enhance the area unique identity and development potential," unquote. The property's on Dodge Street, 115 feet east of Reynolds Street and Dodge Street intersection. That white home with the brown awnings there, that will be torn down. That's the property in question. Looking where you're at right there is an approved R6 alleyway that's under construction on Dodge Street. And there's on Dodge Street looking back towards Reynolds Street. Comments and concerns from the department: sidewalk would be required by the street department, and the school system capacities of the 3 schools listed is noted. Historical estimates would be 2 units. Staff recommends approval. The proposed request is consistent with the land use plan. The proposed R6 single-family district is not out of character with the surrounding development pattern. Adequate infrastructure serves the site, including residential supportive uses such as mass transit and retail in the area. The adopted land use plan indicates it's encouraged to maintain a desirable mix of housing types. Sidewalks will be required as part of the R6 zoning classification, and no other adverse environmental issues were identified. The Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Any comment or question about ordinance 99? Councilperson Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you. You know I got to speak up for my ward. You know how I am. Well, anyway, thank you for giving us that information. Are there any oppositions about these units? Are these going to be homes as well?
Yeah, this will be 2 single-family houses.
Okay,
No opposition and no public comment on this one.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment or question? Seeing none, we're ready for ordinance, item 3, ordinance 100. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
This is Planning Commission case Z18, 2023, application of Dunbar Development. This is 0.87 acres, currently zoned ag and requesting to go to C2. This is not an extension of the C2. The property fronts the south frontage of Needmore Road, south of Needmore Road and Centerstone intersection, City Council Ward number 9. It's a single-family residential home site existing. The applicant did not provide a statement of use, but I'll get into that in a moment. Here you are near the Whitfield Needmore Road improvements. You can see in the distance a recent multifamily project that's under construction. This project would be 2 lots away. There's a property in between this and that property. Looking from Centerstone, the property, its far west frontage is right there. You can see the sign where the property is. And that's what's between the apartments and this property in question. It's zoned R3, currently used as a home and some storage on that property for maybe a home-based business. Looking from the multifamily under construction back Needmore Road toward the site, you can see our zoning sign there. I'll go through the department comments and then discuss the nuances of this one separately. No gravity sewers available. That would be required to be extended by the development if approved. Sidewalks would be required and some roadway access improvements would be required. The street department did ask that they line up the driveway with Centerstone across the street to the extent possible. No other comments or concerns. You can see the school system comments about their capacities listed. Historical estimates would be 10 apartment units. So R4, which is typically your residential multifamily zone, you can see how it's nearby, but it doesn't touch this property. So we don't say that it's an extension of R4. R4, if you start a new zone where nothing else touches it, you need 2 acres. However, for C2, which also allows for multifamily, there's no minimum lot requirement to establish a new zone in an area like this. And you can see there is a commercial node nearby at Whitfield and Needmore Road that does supply the needs in the area. The applicant's statement from the floor was that this was to construct the apartments or townhouses on this property, a max of 8 to 10, and that C2 would be the only zone that would allow it, just due to that, I guess, more of a technicality of not being able to zone the R4. As you see, there is R3 next door, which would allow them to build 2 triplexes if they wanted to do that, or they could wait in the future to extend the R4 if a property owner nearby would also join their application for it. We would support the R4. Staff, however, does recommend disapproval. The proposed zoning request is inconsistent with the land use plan. It appears to be an appropriate location to introduce, it does not appear to be an appropriate location to introduce new C2 commercial district, as this parcel is outside the established commercial node that exists at Needmore and Whitfield intersection. Adequate infrastructure will serve the site. No adverse environmental issues were identified. Planning Commission also recommended to disapprove.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you. I don't know if it's an error, but the ordinance actually says from ag to R6 instead of C2, and that's also on the agenda. I just want to make sure that we, okay.
We'll take care of it.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilperson Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. As I recall, they said they wanted to build townhomes, correct?
Yes.
Is there a reason they couldn't have gone with R5?
That also has a 2-acre minimum requirement.
I'm sorry. I was trying to figure that out. Is there any way we could look at making any type of change to the R4? Because, I mean, they couldn't request that. I mean, that was why this was denied, was because, or denied as far as recommendation is concerned. Is there something we could look at with changing those minimum requirements for R4? Because there's been other times we've had to approve C2 with the full intent of them doing residential and stating that, but they couldn't ask for that due to it not touching another R4 and not being big enough.
Yes is the short answer. As we try to encourage more infill development, obviously we may have properties that are slightly below that 2-acre. This is almost 1 acre. You probably want to encourage some infill opportunities and not have to use C2 where it's not appropriate. Obviously, commercial here is probably not appropriate, but townhomes may be more appropriate. As you remember, at the end of the Planning Commission meeting, we initiated a zoning ordinance update for the Red River. The recommendations in there, however, R3 and R4 are the 2 things we're honing in on right now. So that's something we could bring into the discussion before we bring it back to City Council with an ordinance change.
That works, and you may want to think about R5 as well.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
noted.
Councilperson Shekinah, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you there, Mr. Tyndall. I had a question almost along the same lines as the previous council member. In this case, just for education, what could they request a rezoning for?
You can see you have R3 on both sides there. So R3 would be acceptable. That allows them to build 2 separate triplexes, so only 6 units when the property could potentially hold up to 10 units. So, maybe selling it a little short there. Other option would be to get that property owner between the existing R4 to the west and this property to go in on the application together, and then you make a property that's over 2 acres as well as touches R4. That's another option there. But right now, if they want to do what they want, this is the only zone right now to let them build the townhouses they want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. I also want to mention that several residents showed up to the Planning Commission to speak against this. Most of them indicated that they really needed to finish the circle and not add additional infrastructure on Needmore additional rooftops on Needmore until the infrastructure was completed and we see where we're at with that. So I'll be asking that you vote against this. But I'd also like to add a little bit, and that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but C2 also minimizes the setback requirements, right? Aren't they separate other than R4 and R6? And there's a difference in the buffering.
Not when it's used for multifamily development. So if you use C2 as a multifamily development, it mirrors what R4 setbacks are.
Is that stated in the reg, or is that just what we ask them to do?
It's in the regulations. It's under the conditions of using C2 for multifamily. I'll be happy to show you that
Okay.
page.
I'll go back. But also, I've asked this before in writing, and I'll ask again. I think that we need to strengthen C2. We need to make R4, R5, and C2. So when they're asking to build that, they're asking what they're gonna build. C2 should have a percentage of required, business in it, because that's the intent. If you get C2, then you need to have business, or you do R4 or R5. And if we need to, I think they should all be changed together, not just one. And so when they come forward with that zoning, it's transparent to us and the community of what they're gonna build there.
Anyone else? Thank you. We're now ready for item 4, Ordinance 101. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
This is Planning Commission Case Z19, 2023, application of Raul Mugado Pedroza, 0.8 acres, currently zoned RM1, requesting to go to R1A. RM1 is allows for mobile homes only. And this is an older property that has 2 mobile homes on it. And there you are at Evans Road. This snapshot's kind of amazing because it has just about every residential zone that we allow in the city all in one shot right there. The parcel fronts Evans Road, north of Evans Road and Garrettsburg Road intersection, City Council Ward number 2. The lot is 2 single-family residential structures, and their statement is to remove the existing double wide and construct a new single-family home while dividing the lot into 2 separate lots. And there you are looking, you're on Garrettsburg, looking up Evans Road at the property. The property's on the left. You're looking back towards Garrettsburg there. Here's the property in question. The home on the left is it's a double wide, but on a foundation, so it's considered a permanent structure. The one on the right is not, and that's the one that would be removed and built with a new single-family structure. And some of the shots in the area. Staff recommends approval. No other comments or concerns from other departments. Historical estimates would be just 1 lot and 1 additional unit. Not even additional, just replacing the unit that's out there. Staff recommends approval. The zoning request is consistent with the land use plan. The R1A single family request does not alter the density of the property. The request will permit the owner to replace a double wide with a conventional built home. Adequate infrastructure serves the site and no adverse environmental issues were identified. The Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Thank you, Mr. Tyndall. Any comment or question about Ordinance 101? Seeing none, we're ready for item 5, Ordinance 97. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. You all were able to either be in person or watch the presentation last month by Mr. Ed Holmes of VHI Consulting, go through the Red River Neighborhood Plan. We had to make 2 slight changes to a map in there, but nothing that altered any aspect of the plan. One was really just that picture you see right there of the conceptual area. We just changed the building a little bit on the corner to match what the new Austin P Medical Center is going to look like in that area. I'll be happy to take any questions. I know you had some questions from Mr. Ed last month, and this month we're going to adopt the plan via ordinance. And once it goes into adoption upon second reading, we will use this to guide future land use decisions and other public project and private project decisions in the Red River neighborhood.
Before I call on the council members, we're adopting the plan. We're not necessarily adopting all the recommendations, correct?
The plan contains the recommendations.
Right.
The recommendations then have to be carried out via other resolutions, other ordinances, and other mechanics through the department. So that's what they are, the recommendations. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized.
So just tagging a little bit on to the mayor's question. So basically, right now, once we adopt this, it's a plan that we have to do the ordinances to actually enforce it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what the Planning Commission, as I mentioned, the Planning Commission adopted it. We don't have to do it via ordinance. We can do it just via resolution. And we adopted that on Tuesday. And immediately thereafter, the Planning Commission initiated zoning changes to the zoning code to implement some of the some of the Red River Neighborhood Plan recommendations. So that'll be our share of it. There's a lot of things that deal with code enforcement, street department, housing and community development, neighborhood and community services. It'll be up to them, their departments and city council and the mayor, what they want to tackle and when. Not all of it has to be bitten off at one time. It can be over a course of years. I think they put a course of between immediate 5 years and 10 years on how to get things done. So it's a plan, it's a vision, and it should give some guidance going forward.
I appreciate it, and I look forward to doing this in other areas. So thank you, and thank you to Smith for initiating this.
Councilperson Smith, your name was called. Your lights lit up.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mayor. And thank the previous speaker for comments, your kind comments. I don't get them too often, but thank you. But anyway, Mr. Tyndall, I got a question. I know we're gonna follow this, and I'm happy about it. It's been a long time coming. My question to you is, will they continue to notify residents when something is being built in the area?
We as the planning commission notify when there's zoning changes in the area. I don't think anyone's ever notified just because a building permit's been pulled on something. We don't do that kind of notification.
Okay, so when something is being built, don't you notify the residents around the area that's going to be built?
We do if it's a quad or bigger, if it's a quadplex. No duplexes and no single family houses. We don't, that's all with the code department, and they don't send out notices for, I can't imagine how many notices they'd have to send.
And the reason I asked this is because you all sent me a notification for something on Nemo Road. I don't know why I was getting that. Something that's going to be built, I think it was Nemo Road or, Nemo Road.
Do you own a property out there? I'll be happy to look at that.
Just a
I got
redistricting.
property out there, but, I mean, it wasn't my property.
Yeah.
Unless,
I'll be happy to look at that.
and then,
Could have been an
and
error.
there's one more question. On Poston Street, 500 Poston Street, what is going to be built there? Because we haven't gotten any notifications about it. They've already, laid the foundation and everything. And I tried to call you. You're so busy. You hung up on me 3 times.
I don't think that was me. That's not like me.
I
to
got
have.
your cell phone number because you gave it to me.
Anyway,
Anyway.
we'll
I would
we'll get
ask the
we'll
building
get
and
that
code
information.
department about that. That's
We'll get that
likely
information to you.
different type
Yeah,
of structure.
please do. I need to know what's going to be built there. As long as it's not a barn, I'm all right with it. And it's not a
Did you say barn?
A barn.
Okay,
Sense of humor.
all right,
Okay.
okay.
Or unit.
Any other,
All parts.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank
Any
you.
other comment or question regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, we're ready for item 6, Resolution 50. Mr. Tyndall, please, sir.
Mayor, with your permission, I'll just take resolution 50 and 51 together.
Please do.
You have an annexation request this month, City Council. As you can see, it is a small request. It's 2.06 acres. So you saw that other annexation to the west there with the C5, the R2, and the R4 about 1.5 years ago. Mr. Daniel Welsh has now acquired the property adjacent to that C5 and only wishes to extend what is already approved as a self-storage facility to incorporate with that property as a self-storage facility. So you can see you have the C2 there on the corner. That's out in the county. This is the farthest east portion in the city limits right there. But 2.06 acres, requesting to go from R1 to C5 with this request, and the plan of service showed no objection from any other departments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any comment or question regarding ordinance, resolutions 50, 51? Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized.
So just to clarify, when you do an annexation request, you can include a rezone inside of the annexation.
Yes, because the state's opinion on that is you're bringing it into the city. You have one chance to get it right into the city, and getting that zoning right is one of the privileges you have when joining the city limits. Not everyone requests a zoning change. About half of them do.
Right. I just recall it at the planning commission meeting, someone saying that was not allowed, and so I just wanted to clarify.
And I will, just for information purposes, historically, we have not put a sign out on an annexation. When there's a zone change, this is the first time, and we're gonna be doing that from here on out. If there's a zone change, we do feel it's the right of the public to know. The public typically isn't against if your neighbor wants to annex, but if they want to annex and rezone simultaneously, there may be some additional comments. So we did put a sign out. We may consider sending letters out again as well in the future. There's no guidance at the state level on when to notify, and we do follow all the other procedures.
Thank you.
Any other comment or question regarding these two resolutions? Seeing none, Mr. Tyndall?
I think that concludes that.
All right, thank you very
Thank you.
much. It's good, apparently your video time is out, so. All right, need another quarter. We're ready for the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the consent agenda speedily.
All items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the council may request that an item be removed for separate consideration under the appropriate committee report. Ordinance 73, 2022, 23. Second reading, postponed March 2nd, 2023. Amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of DJ Development LLC, agent Stanley Ross for zone change on property located at the intersection of Madison Street and Village Way from C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District to R4 Multiple Family Residential District. Ordinance 83, 2022, 23, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Fernando Ramos for zone change on property located at the intersection of Daniel Street and Central Avenue from R3, three-family residential district to R6, single-family residential district. Ordinance 84, 2022, 23, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Gangsham and Chandrika Patel for zone change on property located at the intersection of Crossland Avenue and Greenwood Avenue from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to C2 General Commercial District. Ordinance 85, 2022, 23, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Marcela Ramos for zone change on property fronting on the west frontage of Cedar Court, 250 plus or minus feet north of the southern terminus of Cedar Court from R4 Multiple Family Residential District to R6 Single Family Residential District. Ordinance 87, 2022, 23, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Ava Homes for zone change on property located at the intersection of Mitchell Street and Market Street from R3 Family Residential District to R6 Single Family Residential District. Resolution 53, 2022, 23, a resolution approving appointments to the Adult Oriented Board, Beer Board, Common Design Review Board, Board of Equalization, Fire Board, Housing Authority Board, Regional Historic Zoning Board, Senior Citizens Board, and Storm Water Appeals Board. Adoption of minutes March 2nd and March 9th, 2023.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized on the consent agenda.
Yes, Mayor. I guess my question is for Mr. Tyndall. On the first ordinance, ordinance 73, 2022, 23, the one that was postponed, I know there was concerns about the setback, between the difference of C2 and R4. Were there any changes, or do you know why it was, postponed and then brought back, or?
Sure.
You're recognized.
If you haven't received an email yet, you'll be getting an email from the attorney for that property asking you to let the ordinance fail due to lack of a second. They wish to withdraw it and not rezone it at this time. So
Okay.
we can't withdraw it once we've taken action on the first, but we can avoid voting on it. Mm-hmm. If you want to discuss that.
All right, Mr. Baker.
I was contacted today by Mr. Stanley Ross, the attorney for the party in this matter, and he plans on submitting a written request to withdraw, even though it's already passed on first reading, to withdraw the proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance, and he will provide that to, of course, she's not going to be here, so I'm going to have to tell him to provide it to you on Monday. So this will probably be off of we'll show it on the agenda, but it'll be shown as withdrawn. assuming that he follows through with what he said he was going to do.
Councilperson Reynolds, you still have the floor.
That's all, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone else on the consent agenda? We're now ready for the Finance Committee report. Chairperson Streetman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution 52, 2022, 23, a resolution declaring the intent of the city of Clarksville, Tennessee to reimburse itself in a not to exceed amount of $16,198,190 for certain project expenditures with the proceeds of general obligation bonds, notes, or other debt obligations to be issued by the city. The Finance Committee recommended approval.
Any comment or question regarding this first ordinance? You're recognized, Chairperson Streetman.
Thank you, Mayor. Without objection, I'd like to read ordinance 89 through 89, 2022-23 through 92-2022-23 all together. That way, if anybody has any questions, we can cover them all at once. Ordinance 89, 2022-23, first reading, an ordinance of the city of Clarksville authorizing the mayor or his designee to conduct negotiations and to enter an agreement for purchase and acquisition of easements and or property rights for a public purpose for the sidewalk project on Ringgold Road. Finance Committee recommended approval. Ordinance 90, 2022-23, first reading, an ordinance of the city of Clarksville authorizing the mayor or his designee to conduct negotiations and to enter an agreement for purchase and acquisition of easements and or property rights for a public purpose for the sidewalk project on Crossland Avenue. Finance Committee recommended approval. Ordinance 91, 2022-23, first reading, an ordinance of the city of Clarksville authorizing the mayor or his designee to conduct negotiations and to enter an agreement for purchase and acquisition of easements and or property rights for a public purpose for the sidewalk project on Beach Street, East Street, and between Richview Middle School and Clarksville High School. Ordinance 92, 2022-23, an ordinance of the city of Clarksville authorizing the mayor or his designee to conduct negotiations and to enter an agreement for purchase and acquisition of easements and or property rights for a public purpose for the sidewalk project on Rodeer Drive, North Liberty Church, Appleton Drive, and Old Russellville Pike. Finance Committee recommended approval.
You've heard the explanation. Any questions about items 2 through 5? Seeing none, Chairperson Streetman.
Thank you. Ordinance 93, 2022-23, first reading. An ordinance amending Title II Alcoholic Beverages, Chapter 1 Beer of the Official City Code to amend subparagraphs 3 on sale and 4 special events under Section 2-105. Finance, Public Safety, Parks and Recreation Committees all recommended approval.
Any comment or question regarding this ordinance? Seeing none, you're recognized.
Ordinance 94, 2022-23, first reading. An ordinance to amend city code pertaining to Recreation Special Revenue Fund. Both Finance and the Parks and Recreation Committees recommended approval.
Any comment or question regarding ordinance 94? Seeing none, you're recognized.
That concludes my reports.
Okay, thank you. We're ready for Gas and Water Committee. Chairperson Holloman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a full report next week.
Thank you. Neighborhood and Community Services Committee, Chairperson Shekinah, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I will have a full report next week.
Thank you, sir. We're now ready for the Parks and Recreation Committee. None other than Chairperson Zacharias, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll have a full report next week.
Thank you. Public Safety Committee, Chairperson Red is absent due to illness. He'll have a full report next week. Transportation Streets Garage Committee, Chairperson Smith, you're recognized.
Have your reports on April the 6th.
All right, thank you. We're now ready for new business. Ordinance 95, 2022-23, an ordinance amending the official code, Title 1.5, Chapter 16, Section 1.5-1602, relative to the organization and terms of the Human Relations Commission. Councilperson Shekinah is the sponsor, and you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance is actually designed to just reduce the number. For the past year, I've been on the HRC, and we had a quorum 2 times in 2022 due to the number of people that have actually signed up versus the number of people that actually show up for the meetings. So I found it just really sound to just reduce that number so we can actually make a quorum, have a quorum, and get something done. It's kind of disheartening, and it's a disadvantage for the people that actually make the time to show up every month just to sit around and talk, and we can't actually take any action. So this is why this ordinance is before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Smith, you had a question or
I have
comment?
a question for the sponsor.
You're
How many
recognized.
people are on there at this time?
Well, at this particular time, we have 7 people on there. We had 8, one resigned. We're supposed to have 11, so it's hard to get a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilperson Holman, you're recognized.
I just want to say I like this ordinance, and I want to applaud the sponsor for taking the initiative. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilperson Shakina?
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. We're now ready for the discussion item, creating a quarterly working meeting for the city council to allow members to discuss upcoming proposals and improve collaboration. Councilperson Reynolds, you're the originator and sponsor of that discussion item. You're recognized.
Thank you. So this month I attended the Tennessee Municipal League Conference, and it was really a great event. And I got to meet with other council members and mayors. And I actually, at the conference, I met 2 aldermen from Germantown, Scott Sanders and Vice Mayor Mary Ann Gibson. And they were very generous in their conversations. And one of the things that we discussed was that in their city, they have a vision session. It's a non-voting meeting where the city council members and the mayor and the directors gather, and it's where they can talk about visions or upcoming items that they want to work on. It's announced. It's a collaborative meeting, and they called it. And I'm just gonna. It's a planning meeting, and each person can submit 1 or 2 items for discussion. There is. Again, there's no motions. It's open to the public. And I just thought that it would be really a good thing that for us to consider, where we could collaborate and work together better and get directions from the mayor. One of the items I'm personally working on is to update our sidewalk ordinance, and I'm going to carry that around individually, and I have to be careful not to direct work, which I respect, and through the committees. But it would have been nice to be able to sit down where you're not going against sunshine law, because it's an open meeting, and have the conversation and really get input from other members of the council. And, it's actually an opportunity to work together and to collaborate when we agree. So I just kind of wanted to put that out and actually ask I know it's one more meeting. They're not mandatory, but I was wondering what people thought of this.
Any comment or question? Councilperson Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, sponsor of this. But, well, I think you said something about getting a vision for the city, and we just sitting down meeting. We do that now. And also we have the IBD board that takes care of doing a lot of things here in this city. And they always asked us to come and sit down and talk with them when they have a new factory coming in, or what their plans is to do here in this city. And we have those types of boards to do that. And I'm not against what you're trying to say, and I respect you for doing what you do. But I just think that we need to leave this in the hands of those who are already doing that. I mean, not trying to put any salt in your idea of vision. I think you have always got some great ideas. You do. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilperson Marquis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. So I actually like this idea from the sponsor, because I think that it will allow us as council to actually work together to go through ordinances that need to be updated. There are quite a few in the city, just because, obviously councils change over the years and things kind of get left behind when you're trying to move forward in other areas in the city. And I think that it's a good use of time to go back and just double check those old ordinances that need to be updated, and we can do that together here. And I think that would be a job of the council, actually, to deal with ordinances specifically. So yeah, I like the idea. Thank you.
Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized.
I just wanted to respond. that it's really not creating a new vision. It's sometimes how do we work together to support someone's vision or something that's happening. Oftentimes we get here and we've got 5 minutes each person times two to have a conversation about our true intent and what our ordinance really means and what we're trying to do with it, and then collaborating with each other of what should it look like, so we're not on the floor trying to convince or discuss things. We can say, okay, we're going to move this to, for instance, like we're going to meet, we all agree that this is something we want to work on, like for sidewalks, and then we say, okay, we're going to move this to the Streets and Transportation Committee meeting. So anybody that's really interested in working on this, come join us there. It's kind of a heads up instead of like we open our agenda Wednesday before the meeting and it's a surprise, and then we're sitting here trying to communicate in 5-minute bites. And I just think we can collaborate and do better together.
Councilperson Butler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. This workshopping is a really, really good idea. And this actually kind of fits into one of the complaints that I had that led to my resignation. We floated this idea very early on in mine and the previous speaker's tenure. And I think because we were having 6-hour meetings at the time, no one really liked the idea of adding another one. But I think now we do a little bit better with that. And just for the sake of, I just want to say that one of the people who has already reached out to everybody about the appointment for the seat actually brought this up to me as an idea again early on. But I was like, not today. 6 hours. I mean, we were staying here past midnight. So I just, obviously this isn't going to affect me, but I did want to say that that particular person would be a fan of this, and that I personally think that it might have made the last 2 years go a little bit smoother, because I think that if we can communicate more effectively, then, you know, maybe these meetings even could be a little shorter, so we're not up here back and forth at each other. Thank you.
Councilperson Reynolds?
Yeah, so my question would be, I guess, to you and perhaps Mr. Baker, if this were something that we were interested in, would it be by resolution, or would you just put it on the calendars? I mean, how would we could just, because there is no voting, there is no firm agenda.
You could do it by resolution. You could do it by ordinance if you wanted to make it even more formal and binding. The only comment I would have about it is, and I think you understand this, but I just want to make sure, you would still have to have an agenda. You would still have to give public notice of any such meeting. And you couldn't discuss at the meeting anything that's not on the agenda.
Okay. So the message that I got from, oh, this is for you, sir. The message that I got, or the email traffic from Germantown, was that they do have an agenda that they post. You have to submit it, and it's posted. But they don't do any votes, and they don't take official minutes at the meeting.
I'll have to check on the minutes. You might be able to not have minutes. I'll have to double check that. But I don't think there wouldn't be any votes. I don't think you could take any votes, other than maybe some straw votes. And I would be even leery of probably doing that. And what I mean by that is non-binding kind of votes, just to move the discussion forward. But it would really be like an extra executive session, it seems to me. So
Kind of focused on the future. And they meet quarterly. They don't meet every month. I mean, we could meet even less than that.
Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to throw something out there, 875 years ago, when I was a brand new city councilman the first time, we had a strategic planning session. I think it was like February, March, after the new elections and people were installed. And it was at the direction of the mayor and everybody came together in a public, the media was there, the department heads, and we just kind of, like you were saying, and kind of like what one of the previous speakers was saying, kind of whiteboarded some ideas as to, okay, what codes do we want to focus on? Not a long list, just kind of a bite size. What plans do we have now? What do we want to make a priority? The legislative agenda that we would want to try to communicate with the legislatures. So, and it was effective, and we were able to get things done. But it takes everybody. Like if you're proposing that something like this happen, I think it would be important that everybody participate, or what's the point, right? I mean, we all sit on committees where it's rare we have every committee member show up. So I'm worried that this can end up in another situation where the intent is for all of us to get together and whiteboard things and come up with a plan, and then we don't even have half the city council members there. So I appreciate what you're saying. I think it's a good idea. I'm just concerned about, if the goal is to get participation and collaboration, are we going to have enough people to actually do that? That concludes my comments.
Thank you. I know that the chief of staff is leading the department heads and us through a strategic planning process. And part of that will be bringing the council together to share that information, but also to have a council component to that strategic plan. It's taking us 4 years, Chief, to get to a point. We had a little interruption called COVID in the middle there, so we couldn't meet on a regular basis. But we are determined to get to the end of this calendar year to have that strategic plan in place, at least the draft, and then bring it to the council for your participation in your part of that. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that. Councilperson Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Sounds good. Thinking about this quarterly meeting, okay, who would be responsible for writing up the agenda? And then my other question is, would this be mandatory for us? And my other question is, would this be extra pay? And how much time would be spent? I'm a little sense of humor, but I want to know who's going to be in charge of doing the, as I said, the agenda. Who's going to, the minutes?
Mr. Baker, from a legal standpoint,
okay.
you want him to try to address some of that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just to answer the pay question, you can't get more pay for it because you
Nothing.
can't change the members'
Okay.
rate of
No
pay
more
during
pay,
their
okay.
term.
What about the mandatory? Okay.
And whether or not you make it mandatory or not, it depends on if you write it that way in an
I
ordinance,
see.
if you put it in a resolution, and you could just agree, the mayor could just decide to do it and call it as a special called meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So there's various ways of achieving Councilmember Reynolds' objective and intent here.
Thank you, sir. I'm just trying to find more time to be at more meetings. That's all I'm trying to do. Because, we got the executive where we do discuss something, and we can bring up what we want, and we put that on the agenda, whatever. And you, Miss Reynolds, you do that a lot, and we appreciate you. So I'm just saying, we got to be concerned. We have people, as one of the speakers said, they work, not trying to make up excuses, but people work, and I know that I have to change meetings, times, and schedules for people who work right now to this day. Sometimes I don't even have a quorum at a lot of my meetings, as was spoken. And so, we really are pushing the council people thin, on their time. And so that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized.
Just to answer, the way that I thought it would work, but it doesn't have to work that way, is we would maybe set that each person gets to submit one item, since there's so many of us. If they choose, you don't have to submit a vision item, but and it's more like, what are we going to start working on? many times we've opened it up and there's a resolution that we're now running around trying to figure out what it means, not really able to have the open conversation about why and how and what's the background. And it's really an opportunity for us to collaborate, communicate, and work together. There's other times it's like, I love this idea. I wish this sentence said this. And it's hard to have that conversation again on the floor without, then we get rid of some of the, just some of the frustration. And I mean, if one thing is perhaps we do a resolution that we try it for 1 year. The resolution expires at 1 year. That would be 4 meetings. We see how it goes, and if we like it or not, and then we get rid of it. I mean, that if we continue to like it, we can either do an ordinance or a continuation resolution.
Councilperson Butler?
Thank you, Mayor. Actual discussion to the council member that represents Ward 2. Those those meetings that you guys had 784 years ago, were they mandatory, and were they well attended?
You're recognized.
It was a weekend workshop, and so it was not mandatory, and it was 2 full days. And there were follow-up meetings after that, but they were assigned to the appropriate standing committee for discussion. So like if there was a park idea that the majority of the people at the strategic planning meeting agreed upon, then that would be pushed down to the Parks and Recreation Committee for a future discussion and reporting back to the full body.
So were they well attended?
I think everybody was there. I had to leave early for a dance recital, not mine, but yes, it was. Everybody was there.
Thank you.
Councilman Rudd was there too, actually. So it was a really, really long time ago.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other comments, we're now ready for mayor and council member comments. Anyone wish to be recognized? Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized.
Yes. I'd like to remind everyone that Ramadan is the holiest month of the Muslim calendar. And Ramadan is currently from 22 March through 20 April. And Mayor, I would like to request that you reach out or consider reaching out to the Muslim community and the leadership at the mosque and ask them to do our prayer next week at our opening, for opening our meeting, because it is their holy time.
Thank you. Councilperson McLaughlin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to encourage my colleagues to wear something purple next Thursday for Month of the Military Child. We will have military family members and their children here for a special presentation. And it would look really great in a picture if we're all wearing some shade of purple. And thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilperson Shekina, you're recognized for comments.
Yes, I would just like to encourage the public to just be mindful of the bikers. Seems like the accidents and the fatalities involved in bikers are increasing, so just be mindful of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilperson Reynolds, you're recognized.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did.
Councilperson Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that, piggybacking off of what Ward 11 said about the bikers, well, I would like to say, I hope that the bikers drive safer. I love the bikers, don't get me wrong. I was a biker, didn't own my own motorcycle though. But anyway, rode with someone, because I saw one going down the side of the lane with a whole lot of traffic flying on the side of the lane. Then I've seen some swerving in and out of cars in traffic because it come past me. I appreciate the bikers, love them, but they need to drive safer. Because some of the accidents that are being caused are not because of just citizens not paying attention. Now, I've seen this with my own eyes. Some of them do not drive safely. I've seen this yesterday. Going down the side of the lane on Riverside Drive, came past me on the side. And then some were swerving in and out of the traffic. Really? So we want the bikers to be reminded that good driving skills is required here in Clarksville, Tennessee as well. Thank you.
Councilperson Markey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. So actually, I just wanted to let the public know that tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Emmanuel Family Life Center, the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta sorority are actually going to be installing one of the little free libraries there. So if you guys want to come out at 10 a.m. and just support them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council member comment? We're now ready for the public comment section. Any member of the public wish to address the council? Yes, ma'am. You come forward to the well. You have 5 minutes and you can speak about anything except zoning.
Okay, thank you.
And give us your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Miasia Porter Clark. I live at 1465 Kingsbury Drive, Clarksville, Tennessee. I am a native of Nashville, and a year ago this week, my husband and I bought a home in Clarksville. Hence the last name Clark. His family is from Clarksville, and we kind of just returned home outside of Nashville, also becoming extremely unaffordable. I have my son here with me today, and not to pull on anyone's heartstrings, but we all know what happened on Monday. And I have been terrified to send my child back to school. I'm back to daycare since Monday. Me and my husband talked about it. I was supposed to send him this morning and was up all night, worried sick about sending my son to Tylertown Learning Center. It's a wonderful center. But what we saw on Monday is even if you have the best protocols in place, things still happen. My son will be 4 in June, which means come August, he should be eligible for, the city's pre-K program, should we meet the income limit or should a spot be available. But even if it's not, next year, fall 2024, he'll be 5. And of course, he should be going to school. I'm seriously considering homeschooling because I just do not feel like it's safe. But I also know that there's parents out there that don't work from home like me, that can't, afford to do homeschooling because they have to go out to their places of employment. So I feel like it's my due diligence to speak up for those individuals who can't homeschool. For me, that's my safety call. But there's other individuals like my sister who couldn't do that. She has to work at a salon. She can't be sitting in there homeschooling her children. I want to know that we're having the conversations, and besides having the conversations, that we're actually doing what needs to be done to ensure our schools are safe. I know it's easier said than done potentially, but I also know something has to be done. It can't continue to be our new normal. Parents can't be up all night worried sick about sending their child to school. I don't know when I'll send my son back, and that's terrifying to me considering every week I'm paying $200. And I can't afford to just give her $680 a month, but keeping him at home because I'm just terrified. So I just want to make sure that besides the sidewalks, which are really important because my baby likes to ride his scooter, that we are doing whatever we need to do to make sure every single child in Clarksville is safe, and that every single parent can close their eyes at night, wake up in the morning, hug their child, send their child to school, and know they can go pick their child back up. Please tell me you're doing something. And if not, who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to serve to make sure that this is on the agenda and that we're doing something? And I'm sorry for my attire. My mama told me better, but again, I'm a working mother and I didn't have enough time, so I just had to get here.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other member of the public wish to address the council? Seeing none, we are adjourned until next week. See you then.